Welcome, everyone, to our afternoon webinar with Trade Warrior today. Today we have Damon Drew on the line with us, and he's going to be conducting our session this afternoon. And Trade Warrior is a trades allocation and rebalancing package that works well with AssetBook. So he's going to talk a little bit about that. At the end of our session, we're going to save about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. So if during this session you have questions, feel free to type them in at the bottom of the screen that you see there on your right-hand side of the monitor. Feel free to type your questions, and then we'll ask Damon at the end, and he'll answer those or address those questions for you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Damon.
Okay, thank you, Lori, and thank you for everyone for taking the time to take a look at Trade Warrior today. As Lori mentioned, if you have any questions as we're going through this, please either save them or type them in, and we'll definitely save some time at the end to cover those. The demo today, I'm going to try and keep it fairly high level, fairly lightweight, and then we can dive deeper into some questions if you guys have questions at the end. Or if you would like to discuss further or have a more in-depth demo, feel free to please contact us, and we can set up a one-on-one webinar or web demo with you and your firm. So just to give you a little bit of background on Trade Warrior, I was a former registered investment advisor, and like a lot of investment advisors, I was frustrated with how long it was taking us to do our trading and rebalancing. And so I went to work on building a program, initially just for our own internal use at the firm I was at, and we spent several years developing that, and it was working well. And I basically saw the opportunity in the marketplace that I thought, there was a need for a more affordable and a more intuitive rebalancing system in the market. And so back in 2008, I left the advisory space and came and founded Trade Warrior, and we took what we had initially developed internally and commercialized it, and that's what we've been developing. And as Lori mentioned, we do work with AssetBook. We're actually the first rebalancing system to integrate with them. We've been working with them for about a year and a half now. We have several AssetBook customers, and so our integration with AssetBook is very good. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into the demo here. So the first thing I was going to mention is just the overall product design and the interface of the software. We designed the program to look and function like Microsoft Office, and the reason for that is so that when you get into the software, it feels intuitive. You know how to navigate the software basically. And so just to kind of demonstrate that, you can see we use the ribbon menu concept that Microsoft uses. A lot of the familiar functions up top up here, like save, refresh, new, delete. So I mean, just to give you an idea on how the functionality works in the software, if I come to the model screen, for instance, and let's say I want to create a brand new model in the program, I would actually come up here and click the new icon like you would if you were in Microsoft Word to create a new document. And that would give us this pop-up here asking us what model we wanted to create. So just to give you a little bit of idea on the functionality and flow of the software. We also have a search bar up here, so no matter where you're at in the program, you can always quickly navigate to any screen in the software. So beyond that, we have a lot of our screens use these grids. If I actually jump back here to the portfolio view here, you'll see that we use these grids. They're all customizable. You can turn columns on or off, filter by any of this data, as well as on top of every grid there will always be a search bar or a filter bar with just that data that you're looking at on that screen. So it's just a little bit in terms of the program design and how it works. So as far as getting information into the system from AssetBook, you would come up to this import wizard under the import menu, and if I open up this wizard, it'll open up our toolbar here. And so if we were going to do an import from AssetBook, the first step obviously is to run the export out of AssetBook. That process takes a couple of minutes. And then what we'll do is we will configure the import wizard here to go grab those files. And so you would just open up Trade Warrior, open up this wizard, and come and click import, and it would take and grab that and bring all that data into the system. The types of data that we get from AssetBook is fairly comprehensive. We'll grab obviously all the account data. If you've taken the time to household your accounts together in AssetBook, we'll take and be able to import that data as well as all the account positions, prices, cost basis on all your positions. So that's the information we're grabbing from AssetBook. Typically, the export-import process takes anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to run, just to kind of give you an idea on that process. And unlike a portfolio management system, The only time you need to update Trade Warrior is if you're actually going to come in here and do some trading. So if you don't do any trading for, say, 2 weeks, you can just come in here and grab the last 2 weeks' worth of data and bring all that information in. So you don't have to update it every single day. Okay, so let's take a jump back here and come back to the home menu. As far as the accounts and householding in the software go, we've got these different views up top here. So if I come to the account screen, just as an example, we'll obviously always bring in all the accounts into the program. Beyond that, though, you can take and if you want to trade at more of a household level, you can take and group them up into one of these, either a client, a portfolio, or a household view. Typically, we recommend people build their trading portfolios in this portfolio view. If I open up this screen, and the reason for that is it allows you to take a household and break it apart into different portfolios for trading needs. So just an example, if we look at this Doug and Connie Adams portfolio here, if I drill into them, you'll see in this case we've attached 2 accounts to this portfolio and assigned them the balanced class model. If I jump back out to our portfolio list here, you'll see that we took their kids' UTMA accounts here and we broke them out into a separate trading portfolio with just the UTMA account and attach a different model to it. So it was just to kind of demonstrate you can take a household and break it apart for different trading needs if you need to or want to. Trade Warrior is a true household-based tax-aware rebalancing system. So just an example, if you pull this portfolio up, in this case you'll see we've got 4 accounts attached here and we've got their model assigned to them. And so when I say Trade Warrior is a true household-based rebalancer, what we do is at the beginning stage of the rebalance, we would take these 4 accounts here and combine them together like they're one big account. And then we'll take that and compare that against the target model to determine what needs to be bought or sold. And then the final allocation stage kicks in where it will take and divvy the trades back out into the individual accounts. And so what that means is at the end of the rebalance, the accounts will not look identical to each other, but once you take them and combine them together, that's when it will match up to the target model. And so if that's the way you like to trade, Trade Warrior can definitely handle it that way. If you prefer just to trade on the account level, you can just come into the account and attach the model to each individual account. So just whatever your preference is as far as trading is concerned. So while we're on this screen, let's drill into one of these accounts here. A lot of our functionality is drill down functionality. You can keep going deeper and deeper. So here we're looking at James Cannon's individual account. It's an IRA at Fidelity. If I jump over here to the rebalancing screen within the account, there's a few extra pieces of functionality you can come in here and customize at the account level. So one of them is the trading statuses. If I drop this down, by default everyone will be set to trading authorized, but you can also mark accounts do not trade, which will actually exclude the entire account from ever being traded. You can also set approval required statuses. So for instance, if you had a client that wanted to review the trades before you executed them, you can set this and the system will generate a warning when it's doing the rebalance to remind you of that. So a few of the other settings here, we jump down to the do not sell grid here. This is where you can come in and mark securities with this do not sell restriction, and that will, as the rebalance is going through, it will prevent, in this case, this bond from being accidentally sold. So very, very simple to mark your securities with those do not sell restrictions. And then the last piece of functionality is our cash management grid down at the account level. And this grid actually has a few pieces of functionality. One of them is if you have clients with regularly scheduled distributions, you can actually come in the software and put those distributions in here. And as the rebalancing is happening, it will actually generate that extra cash for you to cover those distributions. So just an example, if we put this one as taking $1,000 a month distribution, put no end date on that, and we can enter that in. So in this case, you'll see it's actually going to generate $6,000 in extra cash, and that just comes back from our rebalancing settings screen. You can tell how many months worth of distributions you want it to create. And so I've got mine set at 6 months right now. So as we do the rebalance, it will generate an extra $6,000 in cash for us. The other cash setting you can put in here is a minimum cash. So for instance, if this client says, make sure I've always got $50,000 available in this account, you can come put that in. Instead of extra cash, though, I'll set this as minimum cash, and we can put that setting in. And so, and you can actually have these two settings both put on the exact same account, and they'll actually work in conjunction with each other. So, so in this case, it would generate that $50,000 minimum cash floor, and then it would generate an extra $6,000 to cover basically the next 6 months worth of distributions for this account. So, just to hopefully give you a little bit idea on some of the customization that you can do in trading terms down at the account level. So let's go ahead and close this down and back out a little bit. And the next thing we'll do is we'll come take a look at the models. So within TradeWarrior, you can create 3 different model types. We have security-based models, class-based models, and then models of models. So let's start with the security-based models since they're the most straightforward. So these model types are the ones that most advisors are used to, where you can come in, you can choose an individual security, and you come over here and assign it a target percentage. Around that, you can set a tolerance band, both a high and a low tolerance, that allows for some fluctuation. Right now, these are saying global default, and what that's referencing is just our main settings screen here. If I pull that up. So right now, I've got a relative 5% tolerance up and down as kind of our global tolerance setting, and so that's what these are referencing. But you can just as easily, for instance, if you wanted this RS large cap fund as an example to maybe have a 10% tolerance, I can just as easily come in here and change that one to a 10% tolerance, whereas these ones would be a 5% tolerance up and down. Another feature we have in here in the models is if you are doing a household-based rebalancing, we have what we call the by location optimization. And what this allows is it's a tax-aware way for you to place the securities in the accounts you want for tax preferences. So as an example, I've got these 3 columns turned on, and we're sorted on our tax-deferred ranking right now. And so what I've done is I've come into this model and I've ranked my bond funds 1 through 7 here. And so what I'm basically telling the system is I want these bond funds to go to my tax-deferred account. And so as the system is divvying the buy trades out in these securities, it will start with this first one, this PIMCO total return. And since that one's ranked to number 1, it will go to the tax-deferred account first. If there's still room left over, it will move down and do the second fund. And it will work through the rankings until either the rankings are satisfied or that account type runs out of cash. Just another example, if I sort on my Roth IRA ranking, in this case I told it I want my commodity fund, my overseas fund, and my small cap fund. I want those 3 to go to my Roth accounts. And so anyways, it's just a way for you to specify to the system what securities you want to go to what accounts for tax preferences. Okay, so let's go ahead and close the security model down, and let's jump back to the class models. So the class models in the system, first of all, the classifications in here are completely customizable. Out of the box, we do not classify any of these securities. If you've got your classifications set up over in AssetBook, we'll take those and be able to port that information over during the import. We do use a bottom-up approach when building these models, meaning that you still come in and you choose the individual securities that you prefer to be in that class, and you can still come over here and assign a target percent. That said, the first goal of a class-based rebalance is to get the overall class weighting correct. So in this case, we've got a domestic large cap classification with an overall weighting of 15.5%. So just to give you an idea on how the logic's a little bit different from the security models, let's say we were rebalancing a client and that client owned these 3 securities and they made up 15.5%. In that case, the system wouldn't actually generate any rebalancing trades because the class was at 15.5%, even though the client didn't own any of these 2 securities. So, the rebalancing results are definitely different than the class-based or the security-based models, where it's individual securities that equal a percent. These are trying to focus more on getting the class weighting to where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and close that down. And then lastly, we have these models of models. And this is where you can come in and you can build a model out of the other models in the system. So that last model we were looking at had basically all those classifications listed in one model. An alternative way you could do is you could build some very specific models, such as domestic stock, fixed income, international sector, just an example. And then you can come in and build a model out of those models. So you basically assign the weighting that you want to be applied to each one of those models. And so this allows you to have a very customizable way to kind of slice and dice your core underlying models. And typically where we see this make sense is if you have a lot of models that you maintain, this is a very efficient way to manage that, because all you're really having to maintain is your underlying core models. So just an example, let's say it came time you wanted to make some changes to your domestic stock model. I could drill into that model, come in here, make my changes, and then every model that had this domestic stock model in it would be updated with those changes. So it allows you to make the change in one model in one spot instead of having to make them through each individual model. The other way we've seen some advisors use these models is if you have client-specific situations. So instead of calling this the balance model, we'll come here and we'll call this Joe Client's model. And maybe Joe wants 40% domestic stock and 20% fixed income in his accounts. So what it allows you to do is you can come and make a very custom allocation mix just for one client. We would just assign this model to that one client. But again, it's nice from an ongoing maintenance perspective that really you don't have to ever get back into this model unless Joe wanted to change his overall allocation mix. All you're really maintaining, again, is kind of the underlying sub-model pieces. So let's go ahead and jump out of the models, and let's jump over to the rebalancing section here. So Trade Warrior basically has a three-step process to get the rebalancing done. The first stage is you come to this folio list screen, and this is just going to list all the clients in the system. The whole purpose of this screen is to basically pick and choose who you want to rebalance. This top row here is a filter row, so just to give you an idea, if I just need to rebalance one client today, I could quickly filter him down, come over here, select him, and we could send him through the rebalancer. Or you can do things like, maybe you just want to trade your conservative models today. You could filter those down. And the system is a multi-filter system, so let's filter by Mark Kelly. So basically we're going to do Mark Kelly's clients that have the conservative model attached to them. So just to kind of give you an idea on the customization and how you can filter and pare your data down a little bit. Another really nice feature we have in this screen is this net out of balance calculation. And so what this was going to show you is it will show you on a percentage basis between 0 and 100% how far out of balance the client is in relation to their target model. Now I'm in this little demo database, so we've got people all over the spectrum here, but typically what you'd see in the real world is most of your clients should be in a fairly tight range. And then if you have any outlying clients, maybe some clients that maybe just transferred in or need some trading attention, it's a very easy and efficient way to monitor all of your clients in the system to make sure that nobody's slipping through the cracks and needs some trading attention. So that's what that net out of balance calculation will show you. So for this demo, let's go ahead and we'll just select all of our clients here, and we'll send them through the rebalancer. There's several rebalancing modes here. One, you can run it through a full rebalance. We also have a buy-only and a sell-only mode, and these are more typically for your day-to-day scenarios, such as if a client deposited new money you need to put to work, or inversely, if they need to pull money out of their accounts, you could just come in and run that sell-only rebalance. We also just added this tax loss harvesting mode in here as well that will analyze your taxable accounts and harvest some losses with some parameters that you specify. So for this demo today, let's go ahead and we'll just do a full rebalance on all these guys. So I will kick off the rebalancing process here. And once that's complete, where to send everybody is over here to the middle stage, which is the review results stage. And so what this screen is going to show you, if I filter on this status bar here, it's basically going to show you kind of on a high-level overview what happened during the rebalance. If they got the green check marks here, it means it passed all the checks and balances in the system. If they got the little I next to them, it's an info alert, which means that something impacted the rebalance, but none of the thresholds were violated. So just as an example, it might be things like a do not sell restriction. These next ones here with the warning on them, those are ones that did violate one of the trading thresholds. So it might be things like a short-term redemption fee on a mutual fund, or maybe taxable gains were too high in an account. So there's a whole slew of thresholds and settings you can customize in the program. And then lastly, if it's got the red X that errored out, in this case these guys didn't have any money in there, so that's why the system errored out. So if you wanted to look at it on a more detailed view, so for instance, let's take a look at James and Lauren Cannon here as an example. If I want to see what's going on with them, I would just select them and double-click them, and that will pull up the very detailed rebalancing results for their household. So just to describe this screen a little bit, this top section is the tax and cash summary. So it will show you basically the tax consequences of these trades. So in this case, even though there's 4 accounts in their household, they only had 1 taxable account here, you can see. So that's the only one that's listing up here. So if we proceed with these trades, this client's going to experience $31,000 plus in long-term gains. This next little section over here will just show you a cash summary. So we'll show you, where they're currently at, the projected cash once the rebalance is done, and then the target cash. So just gives you a little cash summary overall. The next section down here will show you the 4 accounts that we just rebalanced, the current totals, so kind of pre-rebalance how things look, the buys and sells that are happening, and then the projected totals once it's all said and done. And again, with all these grids, you can come here and you can right-click in them, and usually there's columns you can turn on or off. So for instance, if I want to see the custodian on these accounts, I could easily just turn that on. So again, just to kind of demonstrate that you can, most of these columns are very filterable, and there's usually a lot more data you can either turn on or off, just depending on what you want to see. So in this case, these guys had a class-based model, and so we'll first break it into. So I mean, you can see here we're looking at this client. Currently they have 111,000. The target's basically right there. So basically no buys or sells are going to be generated because they're within range. But for instance, if we look down here at domestic large cap, you can see they're a little bit off, so we need to buy a little bit. If you want to see the trade detail, you just hit this little plus button next to it, and that will expand the trade detail for, in this case, domestic large cap. So if we scroll down here just a little bit, you can see here it's going to list all the securities. But if you look here at the trade type, there's actually no trades happening for most of these securities that this client owns. But since we were a little bit underallocated, the system went back to the model, chose what was most underallocated, and we're going to do one trade to buy more to get this class where it needs to be. Now this is also the level where whoever's doing the trading can also get in here and put the human touch back on the trading. So the system will always do the rebalance according to the model and the settings you've got. But if you want to come in here and manually override any of this data, you can very easily just come in here and key in a different trade amount, and it will take that change. And so like I said, it's nice because it's not completely automated. You can still come in here and move things around if you need to. So as far as the alerts and warnings in the system, we have this real-time errors and alerts system in here, and that's just this yellow bar up here. So in this case, you can see we've got one warning on this rebalance. So if I click this, it will launch our errors and alerts toolbar. These toolbars are actually designed, if you do have dual monitors, you can actually take this and drag it over to another monitor to free up some screen real estate. So in this case, if we look at this, it's basically telling us we've got a long-term capital gain warning saying, hey, in this one account, it's going to have gains of 8.14%, and we'd set a threshold of 5% in the system. So it's just warning us that we're going to exceed that threshold we set. Now, the warnings aren't going to prevent me from actually proceeding with these trades. It's just warning us that one or more parameters is being violated, and then whoever's doing the trading can decide what they want to do with that. So in this case, if I wanted to look into this a little further, I could come back to my trade results here, sort on my long-term gain column, and quickly see, okay, I'm getting my gains in my natural resources sector. If I expand this out further, it's going to give it to me position by position. I can see, okay, I've got the Spider Gold shares here. It's going to give me $32,000 in long-term gains. If you want to see the actual cost basis on that, you can even drill one level deeper by hitting the plus button, and it will actually show you the cost basis data that we imported from AssetBook. So the trader will have all that information right here at their fingertips. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll close that down. And let's go ahead and close this client and come back out to the review results stage. One other thing, this is all on a very client-by-client basis, but if you just want to see more on a trade blotter view, you can also switch over and view it on the trade blotter. And this is just going to list all the trades we just generated for all those clients. Again, you could come up here and filter by any of this data. So, for instance, if I just want to look at one trade here, I could easily filter down this Calamos convertible, come over here, filter by my trade amount, and so it gives it to you in that trade blotter view. And then from here, if you saw any trades that you had questions on or whatever, you could easily just drill into them and change any of that data if you needed to. So let's go ahead and close that down. We'll come back to our review results list. So once the trader has reviewed the errors and alerts here, we'll go ahead and select everybody except for this one with the error on them, and we'll send them to the final stage of the process, which is the export stage. And so this screen is basically just going to give us that same view where you're just kind of looking at on the trade blotter. Again, you can come in here and filter and sort your trades any which way. However, most advisors by this point, they've already reviewed their trades, so it's basically just kind of a waiting ground until you're ready to actually take these trades and export them out to the custodian. So in this case, we'll go ahead and we'll just select all these trades, and we'll hit export trades. And so what the system's going to do at this point is going to go ahead and create the individual trade files for the custodian so we can take and upload. So In this case, you can see we just did 339 trades for $8 million for 4 different custodians, just an example. And where it sends all those, you'll be able to set your own file location. So I've just got to sort on my C drive here, exports. The system will automatically create a folder with today's date on it. If I drill into this, here's all the trade files that we just generated. So again, typically most people won't see this many because I've got 4 different custodians turned on here. But just an example, here's the Fidelity trades up here. So and most people actually wouldn't even come into this file. The typical process would you'd export the trades out of TradeWarrior and then log into your custodian website and click File Upload, and then go and grab these files and upload them into your trading system at the custodian. Then you'll be able to execute them from there. So if you do equity trading or ETF trading and use block trades, TradeWarrior can support that. So we'll create the block trade files as well as the allocation files for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that down. One more trading thing I was going to show you here is we also have this direct trading screen that a lot of advisors find very useful. This is for the times when you want to come in and just do some security swaps, but don't necessarily want to do like a full rebalance on people. So just an example, let's say I've got this Janus short-term bond fund here, and let's say I'm turning more bullish on the market, so I want to sell half of this fund, and I come over here on the buy side, and let's do Google. So we'll say we want to put half the proceeds to Google, and we'll do the other half of the proceeds to Apple, just as an example here. And you can get as crazy as you want with these directed trades. You can have multiple securities on both the buy and the sell side. So at this point, now that I've built my trade up here, what I'll do is I'll come up here and click this Build Accounts icon. And that will go and query the database, and it will find every single account in the system that has this Janus short-term bond fund in it, and return that list to us. So again, you can come in here and filter that data if you wanted to. For this demo, I'm just going to go ahead and take all those accounts. We'll select them, and I'll hit Create Trades. And where it's going to send those is just send them back over to the review results stage, just like it would normally if you're doing a full rebalance. It will still throw warnings and errors if there were any problems with those trades. But actually, let me just switch over to the trade blotter view here so we can see all those. And if you look here, if I come and filter by my symbol, you'll see that the only trades the system generated were for Apple, Google, and Janus short-term bond funds. So it will do those very directed, very specific trades for you without, like I said, necessarily having to go through and do a full rebalance. So at this point, you can do the same thing. I'll select all those people, and we'll send them over to the export screen. And go to export. And again, it's just going to show us all those trades again. At this point, I can select all my trades, hit export trades, and it will go ahead and take those trade files and create them for us. So anyway, so just to demonstrate, you don't necessarily have to come in here and do full rebalances all the time. The system was definitely built to handle this one-off trading as well. So anyway, so that basically covers kind of the high-level overview of TradeWarrior. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions at this point.
All right, great. Thanks, Damon. That was great. We do have a couple of questions. First question is, can you do a tax gain harvesting?
A tax gain harvesting? Yes, good question. And the answer is yes to that. If I come back to my rebalancing settings here, we have this tab in here for the tax loss harvesting. And so this is where you can come in and basically specify what level you want to do your tax loss harvesting at. And we definitely built the feature with in mind to actually harvest losses, but basically you can kind of game the system by coming down to the specific parameters and basically putting in, we actually built it so that you'd put in a positive % to actually harvest losses. So if I wanted to do gains, I'd actually put in a negative 5% here. And if I wanted to say go basically harvest 5% short-term gains in this case. So yes, the answer is yes, we can harvest gains.
Okay, very good. Thank you. The next question is, do you handle wash sales?
Yes, excellent question. So the answer is yes, we do handle that. Again, that's the data that we're pulling in from AssetBook. We're pulling in all the cost bases, all that transaction data. And so as the system is going through and doing the trading, if a wash sale violation is going to happen, the system will throw a warning in that errors and alerts system, alerting you that you could be generating a wash sale.
Okay, very good. Next question, do models import from AssetBook?
Yeah, another good question. So the answer is yes, the models will import from AssetBook. And so if you've already got your models created in there, we can take and import that in. As well, the main thing it will import, though, probably the biggest time saver is that account or that household to model relationship. So we'll take and be able to pull all that data in as well. If you build class models in AssetBook, we'll pull the model itself in, but the model will be blank. If it's a security-based model, we will pull that AssetBook model into the system.
Okay, very good. Next question. Can you do dollar cost averaging into large positions?
Yes, good. Another excellent question. So the answer is yes. You do have to game the system a little bit to do the dollar cost averaging. And how you would do that is back here on the account level. Let's just pull up one of these accounts here. And what you do is you'd actually come into the transactions of the system. This is going to pull in all the transactions that we pull in from AssetBook. And basically what we do is we build our position values based upon the transactions. The transactions and the cost basis data that we'll pull in from AssetBook. So basically the way to dollar cost average, it's not real intuitive, but it definitely works, is you would come into the account that you wanted to dollar cost average. And in this case, this client has $128,000. And so what we would do is we'd actually trick the system here and come in and say, maybe we only want to put $50,000 of it to work today. So I'd come in here and put that $50,000, and then save that data, and then we could run through and do a rebalance, and the system will think it only has $50,000 cash to use. And then the next day when you ran the import from AssetBook again, it would bump that cash back to what it actually was minus the $50,000 that we just put to work.
Okay, very good. Next question. Do you create trades to do by hand, for example, with clients' 401ks?
Yeah, that's also a good question. So yes, we do handle outside accounts. And basically how we do that is if we come back to the same client here, let's go back to the general screen, you'll notice we have a custodian field here on the account. And so if it's one of the main custodians, what we call supported custodians, Schwab, Fidelity, Ameritrade, the system will recognize those and it will say, okay, these are one of our supported custodians, and we'll create the trade files for them. However, you can just as easily come in here and create custodians for your outside accounts. So just an example, let's say it's a Vanguard annuity. You could come in here and specify that, and then what the system will do is when it exports the trades out of the system, it will recognize that, okay, this doesn't match up with any of our main custodian files. And if I pull my files back up here, go to my C drive, Trade Warrior, exports. What we do is we create this, what we call the manual trades file. Actually, I lied, that one's for the bonds. This one is for, we create this generic file, that'll be for the outside accounts. And so basically what it is just basically a human readable Excel file with the trades that would need to be generated. And so it will, once my Excel pulls up here, so you can see here just as an example, it will just give you the account number and exactly what needs to happen. And so you could take this file and then, call the orders in or fax them, whatever your current process is to get those outside accounts traded.
Okay, very good. Next question. Can you create global stop-loss positions?
That's a good question. So I'm not sure in regards to the stop loss. We can create global do not sell restrictions. So I'm not sure if that's what they're asking or not. But let me pull the security list here. So if we came in here, and just an example, if we didn't want to sell any Aeropostale, if I pull this stock up, we can come in here. If I go to the rebalancing settings for this, we do have this global do not sell restriction here, so you could set that. And so what this will do is it basically sets a do not sell restriction for every client that owns this in the system. So if any clients own this, it'll mark that do not sell restriction. So that's typically very helpful if you have things like individual bonds or LLCs or things like that that your clients may own. You can just set it at a global level, so you don't have to go into each individual account level and set that.
Okay, very good. Next question. Are only market orders available?
Yes, that is how we currently build the system. And the reason for that is because it would take just as much time to put, if you say wanted to put a limb order in, it would just take as much time to enter that information in as it is going to at your custodian. And so we didn't do it in TradeWarrior. We just do create all the trades as market orders. But once you upload the trades into your custodian software, that's where you can switch them over and change them into limit orders.
Okay, very good. I think that is our last question.
Okay.
So if anyone else has any additional questions, go ahead and get those in. But for now, thanks, Damon. That was a really great overview of the system.
Okay,
and
yeah, thank you, Lori.
If you could maybe pull up your contact information on the screen for us, or if you have something, or if you want to share that with everybody.
I should have. Yeah, I should have prepared that. Our contact information, you can pull up our website, which is TradeWarriorSoftware.com. And so that'll have all our information on there. Our phone number is 877-499-9192, and you can call me directly. My extension is 104, and I'll give that number one more time. It's 877-499-9192, extension 104. And so, or just call your AssetBook rep. They've got all of our contact information as well. And so maybe while we're waiting for some questions, one thing I kind of forgot to mention is just more on the business side of things in terms of pricing and setup and things like that. So our pricing is public. It's up on our website if you ever want to go reference it. Basically, we have a base price of $3,995 annually. And then we also have an asset-based charge on top of that, which is 3/100th of a basis point. And so basically how that's charged is, one way to think of it, it's basically $3,000 per 100 million that you manage. And so that's completely scalable. So for instance, if you manage 50 million, you'd be charged the base price of $3,995 plus $1,500 AUM. So the total cost of the software would be about $5,500 a year. But in addition to that, we do break it out into quarterly payments to help spread the cost of the software out. And that is the total cost of the software. There's no hidden charges. We don't charge for a number of seats. We don't charge for setup fees or interface fees. That's one of the reasons why we did do that AUM charge, is kind of the all-encompassing fee on there. And if you are interested, we do offer a trial period on the software. We've got a 60-day, 110% money-back guarantee on the software. And the reason we offer that is so that you can get the software installed, really get your hands on it, and try it out and test it out and make sure it's going to work for you. And if for any reason you're not happy, we'll refund 110% of your money for just trying this out. As far as the setup and implementation process goes, it's typically about a 3-week process, has been our experience. And what we do is we do have a very hands-on training and setup process with you, where we'll do typically 4 one-hour training sessions with you, or we'll actually remote in to your installation, so that way we're doing the training with your data. And we just try and take bite-sized chunks. So for instance, like the first training, we'll tackle the model creation. So we'll get in there, we'll cover the models, create some models with you, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then we kind of turn you loose with the homework assignment to go finish building the rest of your models in the software. So, but like I said, typically it takes about 3 weeks from the day you buy it to the time you can actually be sending trades out with it. So.
Okay, we have one last question that came in while you were talking. And that is, can you type it in Word? And I'm not sure.
Oh, the contact information? Yes, let me do that real quick. So I'll type in my email address first here, if I can type. And our website is just the same, TradeWarriorSoftware.com. And our phone number is 877-499-9192, and I'm at extension 104, and you can call and talk to me directly.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right.
Hey,
That
well,
looks like all of our.
Yeah, I just say, I just want to thank everyone once again for their time today, and if you have any other further questions or would like a more in-depth demo, feel free to please contact us.
Very good. And Damon, we really appreciate your time today, and it was very informative, and I'm sure everyone that participated learned something new today. So thank you so much,
Okay,
and
thank
we
you.
look forward to a prosperous business relationship together.
Yes. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, everybody else.
All right. Thanks so much, and thanks, everyone, for attending today.